An article written by Stovall from the American Historical Review says that of all the memorials to freedom throughout the world, none is more important or more widely known than the Statue of Liberty. After researching the Statue of Liberty in depth, I've come to realize that it helps support key statutes the U.S. was created on many years ago and still continues to follow throughout this day. The Statue of Liberty fulfilled its purpose by changing how people act and think. It uses the first main idea of freedom. Next, the statue uses the idea of unity. And lastly, it represents the idea of opportunity. The Statue of Liberty has changed the way people think and act by using the idea of freedom. The torch that is held in the hand of the Statue of Liberty represents the idea of freedom and is supposed to be a light. The light that the statue has at the top of its person is to show light and is also supposed to be able to guide people to that light in order to guide them to freedom. Also, the chains at the bottom of the statue allow people to realize that the statue is representing the breaking away from oppression. This is kind of seen in a couple different ways. The first major breaking away from oppression idea that is shown in America's history through the Statue of Liberty is significantly breaking away from the United States Revolution when we rebelled and revolted against the United Kingdom. The second way that the United States kind of shows breaking away from oppression through the Statue of Liberty is by breaking away from the whole idea of slavery. As an article written by Glassberg from the University of Massachusetts says, likely for the first 50 years of the state's existence while the Civil War was still in living memory for many Americans, at least some of those Americans might have associated the Statue of Liberty breaking chains under her feet with emancipation. Before the Civil War, Congress was actually deeply divided over the future of slavery and rejected receiving the statue depicting liberty trampling the chains of bondage for this very association, showing us that even today and back then, the idea of the Statue of Liberty and the breaking chains kind of represented the United States moving past and breaking away from the idea of slavery. The third thing that the Statue of Liberty represents through using freedom is helping to commemorate the idea of women's rights. Even though the African American community won a lot of their voting rights after the Civil War, women still largely struggled and suffered for this idea. So using Lady Liberty as a person of power, showing that women had power in society, kind of represented this idea of women trying to push for more rights. As an article written by Ivanko from the Places Journal says, discrimination on the basis of race, gender, and ethnicity had long run deep in the American grain. In 1865, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution abolished slavery, yet African Americans were still profoundly marginalized. However, women had won the constitutional rights to vote. They were still banned from voting in most federal states. The next thing that the statue kind of represents through the idea of freedom is the historical traditions as well as when representing freedom. So the Statue of Liberty kind of represents what the Founding Fathers really wanted for America, and the Founding Fathers really wanted the freedom from the British, and the other idea of the Statue of Liberty through the historical context is really that the statue kind of replicates a Greek goddess, which we have seen a lot of stuff in the United States represent the ideas of previous Greek history, such as our buildings that we have in some of the key places. Also, the Statue of Liberty had engravings that were in Latin words, and even things like our money to this day still have Latin words engraved on them. The historical context, especially with Latin, goes further than just representing freedom, but it also kind of represents unity and friendship. The Statue of Liberty has changed the way people think and act by using the idea of unity and friendship. When the statue arrived in the U.S., many people came together to actually view this. An article by Viano says that all along the parade route, the side streets were crowded with groups of recent immigrants jostling to join the flag-waving procession, while ordinary people everywhere were scouting for comfortable places from which to view the event. Actually, 5 months before the Statue of Liberty had arrived to the U.S., there was a lot of issues going on. A lot of people in Chicago were actually protesting against 8-hour workdays, and there was a lot of other issues going on, and it was a bad time for America itself, because there was also a lot of large-spread revolutions going on in Europe, which kind of influenced America. The American people were also able to set aside their differences at this time of hardship. As an article from Glassberg says, by the 1920s, a very different political meaning for the statue as a monument to American national unity amid ethnic diversity came to overwhelm the earlier ones. A lot of this was because in the 1920s, they were getting ready for the world wars, kind of transitioning into that phase where they really wanted to develop a sense of unity and confidence in America. So a lot of people kind of leaned on the Statue of Liberty to do this for them. It also kind of represents the unity with the rest of the world in a sense as friendship, because France actually helped the U.S. through a lot of hard times, and they gave the Statue of Liberty to the United States at a time that France itself was struggling. As an article by Glassberg says, the French government was actually worrying about having to protect against extreme revolts at the time, because they were going through a lot of changes in Europe as well. And so it was very significant that the French actually were able to give a gift to the United States in order to show that they're supporting them, but also to show that both teams are kind of on the same side, even after the Revolutionary War, when the French stepped in to help the U.S. An article by Yellen says that, inspired in part by the European revolutions of 1848, Powers repeatedly altered the devices representing liberty as he witnessed the betrayal of those revolutions. He changed the attributes of tyranny in response to developing controversy in the U.S. Overall, the whole idea for the Statue of Liberty being given to them was developed and signified in France with the idea of tyranny, and he gave it to the United States as a representative because they had previously broken away from that tyranny. Lots of people were trying to free the tyranny going on in their home countries and came for the U.S. to that reason. Overall, because of this, the Statue of Liberty has changed the way people think and act by representing the idea of opportunity. The Statue of Liberty sits out front of Ellis Island, and when Ellis Island was actually open, almost every single immigrant that came to the U.S. saw the Statue of Liberty, and it was kind of that opening door to show them that there was opportunity to continue to grow here. An article from the National Endowment for Humanities said, "It is the mother of exiles greeting millions of immigrants and embodying hope and opportunity for those seeking a better life here in America." Another article by the Landmarks of the World said, "In the early 20th century, for immigrants who pressed on stifling decks of ships, the sight of Miss Liberty, equivalent of a passport to a better life, making insignificant the trying experience of quarantine on Ellis Island." So this kind of helped them see that there was opportunity looking for them, all the immigrants coming to America, that they had so much to hope for, because as they constantly said, the streets in America were paved for gold. Overall, the idea of opportunity changed the way lots of people thought about the statue. The Statue of Liberty fulfilled its purpose by changing how people act and think. It used the first main idea of freedom. Next, the statue used the idea of unity, and lastly, it represented the idea of opportunity that people could have. Still to this day, thousands of people every year go to observe the Statue of Liberty and everything that it stands for.